So now we're talking about child support, which is everyone's favourite question that they come and ask me. It's all about child support. So you are a specialist in this area, aren't you? So tell me more about child support, how people apply for it.
So child support in New Zealand is based on a statutory formula under the Child Support Act. It's run through the Inland Revenue Department. You basically go online. It has a set of criteria so that you can fill in the criteria. It's based now, which is reasonably controversial, on both parties' incomes. So pay the person who has got care and the person who hasn't got care. It's based on both parties' income. You can fill in the criteria, and then it will provide you with a monthly payment of child support, and it's administered through the Inland Revenue Department. So that means that you can go and make what's called a formula assessment, which means that the payments will then be taken and can be taken directly out of the other person's income and paid to you directly. So it's also, there's some difficulties with it in that it's based on a cap of income, which is around the top amount at the moment is about 150,000. And so there is also provision under the Act for you to challenge the decision or seek to amend the provision, which by going through what's called an administrative review. So that once you have a formula assessment in place, you can apply for an administrative review. That is not something that lawyers are entitled to be involved in, and that's quite a big problem. You have to do that, fill in the forms yourself. There's a number of grounds where you can seek to increase your child support if there's problems, for example, in transporting your children. If there's private school fees, that's one of the big areas where people seek an increase in child support to cover
medical costs
and so on. And so what happens then, very experienced, and they are, I must say, they are very experienced, and I find them very good. Administrative officers in the agency then consider both parties' points of view and then come out with a new assessment. So that's the one way of resolving child support, is to go through that formal way.
Is that quite successful?
It provides you with a sure and certain amount each week. But the problem is you're then obviously in a bureaucratic system. The much better way is for parties to resolve it by agreement between themselves. And what I advise people to do is to go onto and try and do a calculation of what their child support assessment would be, and then try and reach agreement with the other parent that they will pay that. I would put in something like an annual review, because as we know, kids' costs go up hugely every year. Another way you can do it is just to divide up the costs. One person pays for the soccer, the other person pays for the gym, one person pays for 1 month for school uniforms, the other person pays the next month, or divided in two halves of the year.
Exactly, and perhaps have a joint bank account where they put
correct, or else you just, as you say, Bridget, that's another easy way. Both parties put in a set amount into the joint account, and that's only used for the children. I would absolutely recommend that parties try and reach agreement between themselves about how they're going to pay for their children, rather than leaving it to a bureaucratic system. One of the disadvantages with child support is that there is a big when you first apply, there's a lag before you start getting it. There's all sorts of reasons why it's important. If people don't refuse to pay, it's the only way of doing it. But it's much better if people can try and reach agreement between themselves about what their children are going to cost.
So there we go. So if you are in the divorce and separation process, you've got children, and so child support is an issue, then privately try and come to an agreement together.
Correct.
Work together and be amicable for the sake of the children.
Absolutely.
And the sake of yourselves. So no, thank you, Lynda, for your insight into child support. We appreciated you being here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.